Welcome to In-Silico Trials Real Impact, the In-Silico UK podcast that's revolutionising the way we think about medical innovation. I'm Professor Alejandro Frangi from the University of Manchester, and I'll be your guide through this fascinating world of in-silico technologies. In each episode, we'll dive into cutting-edge research and groundbreaking news that are shaping the future of medical product development and regulation. From computational modeling to simulated clinical trials, we are exploring how digital approaches are transforming healthcare, making it safer, more efficient, more equitable, and incredibly precise. So, whether you're a researcher, regulator, a member of the public, or a patient representative, or simply curious about the future of medicine, tune in as we unravel the complex world of in-silico methods and their real-world impact. Get ready to discover how computer-simulated trials are leading to very real breakthroughs in patient care. In-Silico Trials, Real Impact, where algorithms and data are saving lives. Let's begin.
You know, it's kind of mind-blowing when you think about creating a living, breathing, virtual version of something real. Not just a static image, right? But a dynamic thing that mirrors and maybe even anticipates what its real-world counterpart is doing.
Exactly.
Today, we're plunging headfirst into the world of digital twins. And, well, it's definitely more than just a tech buzzword.
Absolutely. Think of it almost like having an intelligent shadow, one that's constantly learning from and interacting with its physical self.
Okay.
So in this deep dive, we're going to really zero in on what truly defines a digital twin. We'll explore some of the fundamental philosophical ideas that make this approach so powerful.
Right.
And then, crucially, see why this holds such, immense potential for revolutionizing in silico trials and the future of health tech, life sciences too.
Exactly. And our guide for this is a really fascinating research article, The Philosophical Foundations of Digital Twinning. So the mission for you, the learner, is to walk away with a really clear understanding of digital twins. Not just the technical nuts and bolts, but the core why and the potential, especially for, healthcare innovation.
Okay, let's get right to it. According to our source, what is a digital twin, like in its purest form?
Okay, so at its heart, the research defines a digital twin as a virtual representation. That could be of a natural system, an engineered product, even a social structure, what they actually call the physical twin.
Physical twin, right.
But the real magic lies in the two-way coupling.
Two-way coupling.
Yeah. This isn't just data flowing one way. It's a constant bidirectional exchange of information between the virtual and the real. Usually this is enabled by interconnected networks.
Okay.
And it's this active feedback loop that really elevates a digital twin beyond, just a simple model.
So it's constantly getting information from reality, but it can also kind of influence that reality back. That sounds incredibly adaptable.
It is. That's the idea.
Where are we actually seeing these digital twins in action right now? Is it widespread? The scope is surprisingly broad, as the source points out. Think about product design and manufacturing, for instance.
Okay.
Digital twins are being used there to optimize production lines, maybe predict potential failures before they even happen.
Oh.
Think about civil engineering, too. They can monitor the structural integrity of bridges, buildings, things like that in real time.
Real time, okay.
And of course, the area we're particularly interested in today, medicine and healthcare.
Wow.
That ranges from personalized health monitoring to managing complex medical equipment.
Right.
We're also seeing them in asset management for big machinery, optimizing energy networks, even aerospace. The potential, well, it seems almost limitless.
It's like having a blueprint that doesn't just sit on a shelf, but it actually evolves and interacts with the thing it represents. Now, the idea of virtual representations, that's not exactly brand new, is it?
No, not at all.
Our source touches on some of the history, doesn't it?
It does. The earliest concepts, you can sort of trace them back to NASA's Apollo program. They used physical duplicates of spacecraft for troubleshooting, essentially. Physical twins, right?
Okay. Actual physical ones.
Yeah. The term digital twin itself, though, that gained traction later, primarily within product lifecycle management.
Right.
But it's really the advancements in sensor tech, data analytics, computing power, all that stuff in recent years that have fueled the practical application and, the sophistication we see now.
And I think this is a crucial point for a lot of people. What truly differentiates a digital twin from just, say, a really complex computer model?
Yeah.
Or a simulation? What's the game changer there?
Yeah, that's a key distinction, and the research tackles it directly. They even provide a visual figure, too, in the paper to clarify things.
Okay.
Let's try and break it down simply. A basic digital model That's purely virtual, no active connection to a physical counterpart. It's just, a self-contained simulation.
Right, isolated.
Then you have something called a digital shadow. This involves a one-way flow of data. So information from the physical system feeds into the virtual model, updates its state,
Okay,
but the virtual side doesn't actively send commands back.
got it. So it's like watching but not interacting.
Exactly. Now, the digital twin, and this is the crucial leap, it has that two-way street.
Ah, the bidirectional flow again.
Precisely. It receives data from the physical twin, learns from it, and can also send instructions or influence the physical system in return.
Oh.
This active feedback loop, that's what moves us from just passive observation to proactive intervention. It fundamentally changes how we can interact with complex systems.
Ah, the active feedback loop. That really is the core differentiator then. It's not just about observing, it's about a continuous interaction, a dialogue almost.
Exactly.
The source also mentions this idea of steering representations. What did that concept add to how we should think about digital twins?
That's an interesting perspective highlighted by Kornhoff and colleagues. It basically emphasizes that digital twins aren't just passive mirrors.
Right.
They actively steer a physical entity towards desired outcomes using these multiple virtual representations. It really highlights the proactive, sort of goal-oriented nature of a digital twin.
So it's less about just reflecting what is and more about actively guiding what will be.
You could put it that way, yeah. Think of it as actively guiding.
Like having a virtual co-pilot, constantly analyzing data and making recommendations or even adjustments to optimize performance in the real world.
That's a good analogy.
Now, our source article lays out some fundamental principles of digital twins.
What?
What are some of the core ideas that really underpin this concept?
They propose a whole set of principles, actually. But focusing on the core of what digital twins are, the first really key aspect is that they are holistic.
Holistic.
Meaning they strive to represent the entire system, not just isolated parts. They aim to capture that intricate web of interconnections and also the inherent variability, the heterogeneity within the system.
Right, because you can't really understand a complex thing by just looking at its individual bits in isolation.
Exactly. You miss the bigger picture, the interactions. Secondly, digital twins are purpose-driven.
Purpose-driven.
Yeah, they aren't created just for the sake of it. They have a specific goal in mind. Their design, their functionality, it's all tailored to address particular questions or achieve specific objectives related to their physical twin.
Okay.
And Principle 4 reinforces this by emphasizing they are context-specific. A digital twin designed for, say, a wind turbine will look and act very different from one created for a human organ.
That makes perfect sense. Not a one-size-fits-all thing at all. It's about creating the right virtual tool for a specific job in a specific context.
Precisely.
What other fundamental characteristics define them?
Well, there are also time-evolving dynamic systems. Very important. A digital twin isn't a static snapshot.
Right, it changes.
It continuously updates and changes over time to reflect the evolving state of its physical counterpart. Think of it like a living virtual entity that grows and adapts right alongside the real thing.
Okay, dynamic.
Then there's the principle of counterparsimony. This one's quite interesting.
Counterparsimony. Sounds complex.
It means that instead of always aiming for the absolute simplest model possible, which is often the goal in science.
Right, Occam's razor and all that.
Exactly. Digital twins strive for the necessary level of complexity to accurately represent the system's behavior. The goal isn't simplicity just for simplicity's sake. It's about capturing the essential details, even if that means a more intricate model.
Because sometimes the complexity is the point.
Yes. It recognizes that sometimes that complexity is key to understanding what's actually going on.
So finding that sweet spot, enough detail to be accurate, but not getting bogged down in irrelevant stuff.
Precisely. And one more key one. They are reconstructivist.
Reconstructivist.
The aim is to build the digital twin by assembling various digital components. Could be models, data sets, algorithms in a way that can reconstruct the behavior of the physical twin.
Okay.
And this includes those complex emergent behaviors that arise from the interactions between all these components.
Emergent behaviors. Now that sounds like a really important concept, especially when we think about complex biological systems.
Right. Absolutely critical.
The research highlights holism and emergentism as key philosophical underpinnings. How do these philosophical ideas really shape how we think about and use digital twins?
Well, these philosophical foundations are really what give digital twins their unique power. especially when you compare them to more traditional modeling approaches, which often rely on reductionism.
Reductionism meaning just breaking things down.
Exactly, breaking down a system into its smallest parts to understand it. Holism, as we touched on, emphasizes the importance of the whole system, the interactions within it. Emergentism takes it a step further. It's the idea that complex systems can exhibit properties or behaviors that arise from the interactions of their individual components, but are not predictable simply by studying those components in isolation. The whole becomes genuinely more than the sum of its parts.
Okay.
Yeah.
So things pop up at the system level you wouldn't expect just from looking at the pieces.
Precisely. And this ability of digital twins to model emergent behaviors offers a huge advantage in biology. Think about it. Complex interactions at a cellular level can lead to unpredictable but vital system-wide effects.
Yeah.
Things that reductionist models often just completely miss.
Can you give us a quick example of emergence in biology just to really nail that idea down?
Sure. Think about consciousness in the brain, or even something like the human heartbeat.
The heartbeat.
Yeah. It arises from the coordinated activity of millions of individual heart muscle cells. Now, we can study the properties of a single heart muscle cell, right? But the rhythmic, coordinated contraction of the entire heart, the heartbeat itself, that's an emergent property. It arises from their complex interactions over time and space. You couldn't fully predict or understand the heartbeat just by looking at one cell in isolation.
Okay, that makes it much clearer. The coordinated pattern is the emergent thing.
Exactly.
So with digital twins in biology, the goal is to build these virtual representations in a way that allows these kinds of system-wide behaviors to sort of emerge naturally from the interactions of the virtual components.
Yes.
Just like they do in the real biological system.
That's the ambition. And this is where the holistic nature of digital twins really shines. It lets us move beyond simply studying individual molecules or cells in isolation and start to understand how they function together to create the complexity of a living organism.
Right.
This shift in perspective, from reductionism to holism and appreciating emergent phenomena, it's fundamental to the power of digital twins, especially, as you said, in the context of in-silico trials and health tech innovation.
It really feels like this holistic, emergent approach could be incredibly valuable when we're trying to model something as incredibly complex as the human body or, say, the effects of a new drug.
Definitely.
Now, the source also mentions knowledge and uncertainty. How does that fit into the philosophy? Digital twins aren't perfect copies, are they?
No, absolutely not. And that's a crucial philosophical point the paper makes. It touches on ideas like objectivism versus subjectivism in knowledge, and different types of uncertainty like aleatory, which is inherent randomness, versus epistemic, which is lack of knowledge.
Okay.
The key takeaway is that digital twins, like any model, are inherently biased by the creator's perspectives, the data used, the assumptions made. Principle 7 actually emphasizes acknowledging these limitations.
So transparency about the limitations is key.
Hugely important. It ties into generic requirements for any useful model, including digital twins. Things like utility, trust, and insight. You need to trust the output, especially in high-stakes areas like healthcare.
And how do we build that trust if they aren't true in an absolute sense?
Well, the paper brings up this concept of model-dependent realism, drawing from Stephen Hawking. The idea is that the value of a digital twin, or any scientific model, lies in its ability to make accurate predictions and provide useful explanations for its intended purpose.
So it doesn't have to be the truth. It just has to work reliably for what we need it for.
Exactly. Does it give us insight? Does it predict well enough for us to make good decisions? That's the measure of its value. Utility and validated performance are key. Principle 16 talks about assurance and validation specifically for building trust.
Okay, that makes sense. It's about useful, reliable representations, not perfect mirrors. Now let's bring this squarely back to in-silico trials and health tech. How do these core principles, holism, emergence, dynamic assembly, translate into tangible benefits there?
Well, think about the sheer complexity of biological systems. They're inherently multi-scale, right? Interactions happen at the molecular level, cellular, tissue, organ, whole body level.
All interconnected.
All interconnected. The holistic nature of digital twins allows us to try and integrate these different scales and model their interdependencies in a way that's hard with simpler models.
Okay.
And that principle of dynamic assembly, Principle 10, becomes particularly relevant here. Section 4.3 in the paper discusses this. Imagine being able to connect virtual models of different physiological processes.
Like what?
Say, the cardiovascular system model connected to a renal system model, maybe interacting with a metabolic model, all in a time-dependent way.
Oh, yeah.
This allows you to simulate how, for instance, a drug might affect the entire organism, not just one isolated part. This dynamic assembly is what allows those crucial system-level effects and emergent behaviors to potentially be captured in silico,
Right.
offering a far more comprehensive understanding than just studying isolated effects in a dish or a single pathway model.
So instead of just looking at how a drug affects, a single protein in a test tube,
Right.
a sophisticated digital twin could potentially simulate how that drug interacts with multiple organ systems within a virtual patient.
Precisely. That's the goal. And this capability, well, it has profound implications for in-silico drug testing.
How so?
It could potentially lead to more accurate predictions of both efficacy and safety much earlier in the process. And ultimately, that could help reduce the reliance on extensive, time-consuming, and costly traditional clinical trials.
Okay, speeding things up and potentially making them safer.
Potentially, yes. Furthermore, the source highlights that digital twins can be deployment platforms for AI and data science techniques.
Integrating AI.
Yes. Principle 19 talks about the ability of digital twins to learn from data using advanced techniques. This means these virtual representations can continuously improve their fidelity, their accuracy, their predictive power over time.
So they get smarter?
In a sense, yes. They become increasingly valuable tools for R&D in the life sciences.
Yeah.
This enhanced understanding, Principle 20, talks about gaining insight. This ability to get deeper insights into biological mechanisms through these virtual representations is a core benefit.
And it leads to...
Well, it opens the door further towards personalized medicine. Imagine a digital twin of an individual patient.
a virtual me.
Potentially, yes. A virtual you used to predict your specific response to different therapies, allowing doctors to tailor treatments just for you. That steering representation idea comes back too, using the twin to guide interventions.
That's a really compelling vision. Using these sophisticated virtual representations to accelerate drug discovery, personalize healthcare. It feels like we're moving towards a future where we can genuinely understand and interact with the complexity of living systems in a whole new way.
Absolutely. And the paper also touches on the ethical considerations, which are huge in healthcare, obviously.
Right. Trust is paramount.
Exactly. Section 5.2 emphasizes the need for trust, for validation, Principle 16 again, especially when the stakes are so high. Can we rely on the twins' output for clinical decisions?
It's a critical question.
And one last interesting point from the source, Figure 3b uses the Rumsfeld matrix idea.
No knowns, known unknowns.
That's the one. It suggests digital twins might help us explore the known unknowns in biology more effectively, maybe even reveal some unknown things we didn't realize we already had the data or models to understand until we assembled them in this holistic way.
Potentially revealing previously unseen connections or results relevant to in-silico trials.
That's the hope, the philosophical shift towards holism, the ability to model emergence through dynamic assembly. These are what make digital twins potentially transformative for in-silico methods and the whole health tech landscape.
It's about moving beyond those simpler reductionist approaches and really embracing the interconnectedness of life.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay, so to quickly recap then. Digital twins, they're not just fancy models. They are holistic, they're purpose-driven, evolving virtual entities. They can capture the complex emergent behaviors of real-world systems, often through dynamic assembly. And this philosophical foundation, this focus on interconnectedness and emergence, is what makes them particularly powerful for tackling the really intricate challenges in, say, in-silico trials and driving innovation in health and life sciences.
Exactly right. It's a fundamental shift in how we approach understanding and interacting with complex systems. It offers a level of insight, potentially predictive capability that, traditional methods often struggle to achieve.
Okay. And on that note, the learner, here's something to think about. How might this shift towards holistic, dynamically assembled virtual representations, how might that fundamentally change the way we approach in-silico trials in the future? Think about the limits of current, maybe more reductionist models, and just imagine the possibilities unlocked by truly capturing the interconnectedness of biological systems. Where do you see the biggest potential for those aha moments, those breakthroughs in health tech, powered by the principles we've talked about today? It's definitely a fascinating landscape to explore.
Indeed it is. The journey into the world of digital twins and their application in health and life sciences, it feels like it's really just beginning. And the potential for transformative impact seems truly immense.